Thank you for joining in today's program. Our topic today is getting started in the greenhouse business. This presentation has been compiled from information from the Virginia Greenhouse Operators Training Manual, Chapter 1. My name is Ed Olsen, and I am the Agriculture and Natural Resources Extension Agent for Virginia Cooperative Extension, housed in Henrico County. Many greenhouse businesses are started each year. Most of them are started as a family venture. But as with any business, many of these greenhouses fail in the first 5 years of business. Some of the common reasons for failure include the owners having insufficient knowledge of the greenhouse business, having insufficient startup capital, and underestimating the long hours and dedication required to run a successful greenhouse business. As mentioned earlier, this presentation is based off of Chapter 1 of the Virginia Greenhouse Operators Training Manual. This chapter was authored by Dr. Paul A. Thomas, Department of Horticulture, University of Georgia. In this chapter, Dr. Thomas poses 15 basic questions that you should be able to answer satisfactorily before you invest money towards starting a greenhouse business. There are no quick answers, so plan on taking some time to explore and find the information you need before proceeding. Question 1. Why did you decide on the greenhouse business? If you want to get into the business just because you enjoyed plants and spending a lot of time admiring their beauty, you'd be better off pursuing running a hobby greenhouse. Running a greenhouse business involves many long hours. Not only long hours in the day, but many weekends and holidays are spent working. You need to know and comprehend the myriad rules and regulations that are governing the industry. You also need to understand the fundamentals of horticulture and growing plants. And owning and running a business to make a good living can be very difficult. So ask yourself, do you actually know anything about running a greenhouse business before you proceed in opening one? Some minuses and positives in running a greenhouse business. Some minuses: first, you need to invest some time pursuing formal horticulture training. That could be at a local technical school, community college, or a 4-year degree. You need to be able to handle the demanding physical labor required in running a greenhouse. Not only does that involve, as mentioned earlier, long days and weekend work, but heavy lifting, standing for long periods of time on uncomfortable surfaces, working in temperature extremes, whether they be high temperatures or cold temperatures, and typically having wet feet. Also, with running a greenhouse, you will inevitably have crop failures. Not every crop is going to be successful for one reason or another. It happens to even the best of growers. And you need to be able to withstand having that crop failure and the loss of that income. Weather events are also a factor in running a greenhouse business. Heavy snow load can cause a greenhouse to collapse. High wind events could damage poly greenhouses. Rains can affect outside crops. And then you also need to make sure that you have a proper education or knowledge of marketing skills. Some positives to running a greenhouse business: success comes to those who acquire the training, knowledge, resources, and have the drive to succeed. Being your own boss can be a wonderful feeling. Many greenhouse businesses are also transgenerational, so setting up a business now may provide a business opportunity for your children. And you can also make a modest, comfortable living running a greenhouse. Question 2. What types of crops are you thinking about producing? Annuals, perennials, hanging baskets, and vegetable plants are very easy starting points. Plants such as orchids are much more risky and will require much stronger training and educational background, as well as maybe some additional infrastructure in your greenhouse. The first golden rule to remember is grow what sells, not what you are fond of. Growing pet plants has killed many would-be greenhouse businesses. Think business and grow only what the customers are demanding and what you know how to grow. Knowing what you are going to be growing in advance will likely determine the type of structure and facilities required in your greenhouse business. Question 3. To whom will you sell? For how much and how? You need to make a decision first of what type of business are you going to be operating. Is it going to be a wholesale business where you're selling your product to other businesses? Is it going to be retail where your clients come and purchase plants from you? Or will we be setting up a mail order business where you'd be taking orders and then sending the product out through the mail? Follow one of the basic rules of the business. The plants won't sell themselves. You need to conduct some market research. It's 10 times harder to sell a plant than it is to grow one. In the marketing process, a wide spectrum of decisions and activities include identifying customer needs, developing product and services to meet those needs, establishing promotional programs and pricing policies, and implementing a system of distribution to the customer. It is essential to understand your market, know your competition, and find your market niche. You need to think about shipping. If you're a wholesale business, how are you going to get those plants to your ultimate buyer? Do you have trucks big enough to hold your orders? How far away are you planning to wholesale and ship your crops? If it's mail order, do you have the facilities in order to pull the orders, package the orders, and then have them shipped out in a timely manner? How about pricing? How much will you charge? If you set a price that is lower than production costs, you'll soon be out of business. So make sure when you are pricing a crop that you're including costs of overhead and insurance. Otherwise, this may be fatal to your business. Question 4. What experience do you have growing plants? Experience is valuable in running a successful greenhouse business. If you don't have that work experience or working in another greenhouse business, you may need to invest some time taking horticulture and business classes at local technical schools or community colleges. Most successful greenhouse owners cite one of the following backgrounds prior to starting their own business: 2 to 3 years experience working for somebody else, 2 or more years of formal education, or having a business partner with both of the above. Because of the many technical pitfalls, plan on dedicating your first 2 to 3 years of operating your business of learning the ropes of the business. If you have an opportunity to work for somebody else to get some experience, you'd be following another of Dr. Thomas's rules. Better to learn from mistakes using somebody else's money. A person can gain valuable experiences by working for a low salary at an existing greenhouse for a year or 2. That training could be worth tens of thousands of dollars gained from mistakes not made. Question 5. What is your overall financial situation? The bottom line is that you will need a sizable amount of cash for land and building, as well as a cash reserve for the first few years of operating a greenhouse. In addition to those business expenses, it is recommended that you have at least 2 years of personal income reserve in the bank. It will take 2 to 3 years for the business to turn a profit, to establish steady customers, to earn a good local reputation, and to develop mistake-free production skills. If you're not in a position to cover those expenses during that period, you may be devastated if your total life savings are then required to start the business. Question 6. Have you thought about how you'll be setting up the company? There are many different forms under which you could be operating. These include sole proprietorship, partnership, limited partnership, and corporation. Each of those forms have advantages and disadvantages. and you need to take the time to research the different forms, advantages and disadvantages, and what type of business operation would work well for you. Forming a corporation may also semi-protect some personal property or assets. And each of those forms has some tax consequences. And lastly, you need to think about your business name. This requires considerable thought. Once you've decided on a name and have a thriving business, changing that name can become very difficult. Question 7. Do you have a business plan? Lack of planning is one of the leading causes of business failures. Developing a focused, well-researched business plan will help serve as a blueprint for operating your greenhouse business. And not only will that business plan improve your chances of success, many lending agencies will want the details too. The written business plan should include many business basics, such as your business structure, including what is the description of the business and its goals. Business operations, such as hiring and personnel procedures, or the details of production and delivery of your product. Marketing concepts, such as your market size, location, and demographics. And lastly, financial management, such as what's the source and amount of your initial equity capital, and what are your projected operating expenses. The business plan requires a lot of thought and much work. The benefit of the plan is the satisfaction of covering all those important factors contributing to your business success. If you plan for all those contingencies on paper before investing in your business, your chances of success are greatly improved since you will eliminate a lot of the unknowns. Question 8. Have you identified sources to obtain funding? You may need to obtain some funding for startup costs, such as land and building construction. You also may need to obtain funding to help with some operational expenses while you're producing a crop before the crop is sold. Explore some funding opportunities with your local bank or credit union, the local farm credit association, and the Small Business Association. Question 9. What criteria will you use to choose a location? Do you currently own land, or will you have to purchase land? Either way, you need to make sure you have a suitable site. Is the site that you're looking at properly zoned? Check your locality. Each locality is different, and your locality may require you to have agriculture, commercial, or industrial zoning to have a greenhouse operation. What type of permitting will you need to have in order to construct a greenhouse, as well as the support buildings? What are the availability of utilities? Do you have continuous, reliable electricity? How about gas? It will be difficult to operate a commercial greenhouse without high assurance of continuous electrical power service. And many operations use gas as the source of their heat. How close are you to your respective market? If you're a wholesale business, it may be easy to drive 50 miles to deliver your product, but if you're doing retail, are your clients close to where you want to build your greenhouse operation? What is the water quality? You may need to do a test to make sure that you have water quality suitable for irrigation. Here are some additional site considerations. Make sure your property has good drainage. No matter how many ditches you dig, if your greenhouse sits in a hole, it will always be wet. Topography. Topography, or the lay of the land, is important in reducing development costs and increasing operation efficiency. Property with less than a 5% slope will be less expensive to grade and improve the ease of moving plants and materials between greenhouses on the site. Take advantage of winds for cooling. Situate the greenhouse to take advantage of prevailing winds to assist the fans in pulling cool air through the house. And before you put up your first greenhouse, consider where you're going to put up your last greenhouse. That will help you plan accordingly. Question 10. When do you plan to start up? You may be very excited and want to start your business up right now, but you should allow some time to prepare for opening. Dr. Thomas suggests to allow at least 8 months for planning of your business and marketing. Allow at least 2 or more months for obtaining financing and ordering supplies. Allow at least 3 months, if not more, for construction of your greenhouse and support buildings. And you need to allow at least 3 or more months for the production of your first crop prior to its sale. So your startup phase may take 14 to 18 months before you move your first plants in. Spring production is often the best season to start your greenhouse. It typically yields your highest profit margin, and you'll also get to save on some of the winter costs. Question 11. What kind of greenhouse should you buy? We're not going to go into all the different types of greenhouses that you can purchase and build. There are other resources for that. But just know that there are a lot of different types of structures, such as even span, Quonset, ridge and furrow, gutter connected, different types of covering materials from glass to plastic, fiberglass, and acrylic. You need to think about the heating system. What are you going to use? Unit heaters, root zone heating? What is the source of heat, gas or electric? What other mechanization are you going to include in your greenhouse operation? Bottom line, hobby greenhouses are terrible investments if you intend to use them as the basis for starting a new greenhouse business. So devote some time to researching and planning which greenhouse you want to purchase and build. Question 12. What do you do about hiring and training workers? Is your greenhouse operation going to be family run, or are you going to need to hire in additional workers? Dr. Thomas recommends that if your greenhouse operation is around 8,000 square feet, you can probably get by with just some seasonal help. Once you've crossed the 20,000 square foot size operation, you're probably going to need a full-time employee. And remember, more labor-intensive crops are going to require additional workers. Workers, to be productive and produce high-quality plants, must be trained. That training can come through on-the-job training or formal education. Simple or repetitive tasks that do not require major decision-making can be accomplished through on-the-job training. And since greenhouses use pesticide, there will be additional worker protection training required by the EPA and OSHA. Wages and benefits for employees are important considerations for both the owner and the employees. Generally, total payroll expenses should be about 25 to 30% of your total budgeted expenses. Question 13. How do I go about marketing my product? Product decisions and marketing decisions go hand in hand. You should be able to market what you produce. So doing some groundwork research at the beginning will help you better in your business. You need to determine what are your customers' needs. That will help you determine what kind of products to produce. Do you have the knowledge and facilities to raise and deliver that product that your customer needs? If you raise and sell the product, will you make a profit off of that product? You need to know what your competition is doing. Can you produce a better product? Can you produce a product and match their price? What will distinguish your product from your competitor's product? Question 14. What kind of business records do you need to keep? First, consult your accountant. They'll help you determine what type of business records you need for your greenhouse operation. Some general records that you would normally keep for a business include accounts receivable, accounts payable, payroll, general ledger, and financial statements. The good news is that there are many computer programs available today for helping you keep those business records and not having to have separate programs for each of those records. These systems are typically not very difficult, but you may need someone experienced in helping to set up the system. And lastly, question 15. Have you contacted these resources yet? The last of Dr. Thomas's golden rules is, if you don't stay informed, you'll lose your profit margin. You should plan on ongoing continuing education while you are running your greenhouse operation. Have you subscribed to newsletters and magazines in the greenhouse industry? Have you joined your local or state grower organization? Stay in contact with your small business association or your local bank in order to help with future financing. Join your local Chamber of Commerce. Your Chamber of Commerce is there to help local businesses. In there, you'll be able to talk with other business owners and learn some tips on running your business. Stay in contact with your local tax assessor. Knowing how your business will be taxed and if those rates are changing will help you to better price your local crops. Reach out to your local Virginia Cooperative Extension agent. The Cooperative Extension has access to many bulletins and fact sheets on crop production, greenhouse design, and cost accounting. Additionally, you may need to be licensed in order to apply pesticides, and your local county extension agent can help you with that regulation as well as testing. Make sure you have insurance for your business, and then continue to comparison shop to help save money. Reach out to the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services regarding inspections for greenhouse and nursery operations, as well as any licensing that may need to be obtained. And lastly, reach out to other local growers. You'll find that plant growers are surprisingly very open and friendly. Most will allow you to visit and see how they operate. In summary, most beginning greenhouse businesses rely on the owner's horticultural knowledge and experiences. The small grower does it all, including bookkeeping and payroll, purchasing and payments, selling and marketing, erecting and constructing new buildings, installing and maintaining heating, ventilation, and water systems. The small grower is responsible for producing and selling a quality crop, and is typically the manager, the supervisor, and the worker. You have to do all these jobs well in order to be successful.